As the 5 people who watched my Pokemon videos will tell you, I am in fact not a gamer. I consume a lot of gaming content, yes, but I'm first and foremost a trained nerd. Now when a gaming series which I had my eye on for a bit already suddenly got a lot of attention because haha funny tall white woman, I saw this as an opportune moment to broaden my horizon. I've only played a few horror games, most of them with my mates to see which one of us would piss himself first, but that does mean I've never completed any of them. There is one sole exception to that statement, and that's this, believe it or not, Five Nights at Freddy's 2. I aced the titular 5 nights, and my first and only death was in night 6 when Yellow Freddy decided I was just having too much fun.
Was that the bite of 87?
Memes aside, as the same 5 people who watched my video on The Boy Who Cried Werewolf will tell you, gothic horror is right up my alley. Vampires duking it out with werewolves is what fires up the wee Scotsman, so a Resident Evil game making most of its marketing about a giant vampire awoke something primal inside of me. Side note, the more and more I saw of their so excellently marketed lady Alcina Dimitrescu, the more I noticed parallels between her and my Ransona Cara. But I'm not throwing years worth of inside jokes which I call development away at the risk of being called a Lady D simp.
For fuck's sakes!
Getting back to Lady D, I can't take her seriously. As the 5 people who follow me on Twitter will tell you, she has the same name as the shampoo brand that I use. Not even an hour into the game, I just resorted to calling her Shampoo just to save myself from struggling with her maiden name. Maidens are actually central to the theming of this game, as the titular village has a lot of maiden symbolism going on. There's also entirely too much mother-daughter imagery, but trust me, we'll get there eventually. The story of this game follows up on the story of Resident Evil 7, a game which I also follow with great interest. Ethan Winters has settled down in Europe with his totally not still infected with the zombie mold wife Mia. Together they have a 6-month-old daughter named Rosemary. Chris Redfield finds this just a tad too peaceful and overruns the house, shooting Mia and kidnapping Ethan and Rosemary. During transport, the van overturns and Ethan wakes up, unable to find Chris nor Rose. And from that point onwards, the game turns into your regular fetch quest that we've come to expect from Resident Evil. But fear not, you impatient sexual deviants, the game knows exactly what you want and just kind of throws you in there with Lady Shampoo. But not before you meet the real sexual attraction this game has to offer in the form of the Duke. He's the game's merchant, so like everyone who wants to take your money, you are not supposed to trust him. But I see no reason not to trust him.
Lamp oil, rope, bombs, you want it?
He seems to be the only sane person in this hellhole, and he also gives you useful stuff and advice, so why not trust him? Are you fatphobic, game? I'll save the juicy details of the plot for the spoiler section, so let's move on to the presentation. The titular village is presented almost perfectly. You make your way through the shrubbery and there it is, in the valley below, accompanied by the castle bells. Those bells really make the moment, as whilst it's a really powerful sound, it really only is just background noise. It's a heralding sound which you don't want to hear when you're all alone in a village overrun by lycanthropes. These lycans are both beastly enough not to speak a proper word of insert language, but they're also intelligent enough to ride horses.
If you must know more, his name is Bjorn. He is very strong, and he's a skin changer.
The main 4 baddies are really well designed, and despite the game setting you up to murder each one of them, they each have their own lovable traits. Shampoo is so over the top feminine that I expected her to be the result of r/men writing women, but it totally suits the noble woman aesthetic Capcom is going for. Then there's Karl Heisenberg, who combines the coolest last name with the lamest first name. He's like Magneto and Reinhard Wilhelm's love child, both in powers and personality. From the first moment he walks up on you, you already want to punch him. He also looks like Django, so that's a win for me. Finally, there's Salvatore Moreau and Donna Beneviento, and I'm grouping them up in the collective meh category because the game does very much the same. Whereas Shampoo and Carl get some instant character, they really don't bother with Salvatore and Donna. One of them only has one collective line of dialogue, and the other is just so sad it becomes hammy real quickly. The sound design is perfectly acceptable for horror game standards, although the turn a corner / find something and loud noise plays dial could be on a lower notch. Some of the quote-unquote hair-raising music also ends up becoming really irritating to listen to. There is a distinct difference between jarring and irritating. You can tell the sound designers expected you to just jump straight into the action, but I like to explore and take in what I can see, but the music makes that really difficult because at some points it just dissolves into Golden Freddy garbling. I know I've suddenly not been praising this game as much as in the beginning of the video, but don't get me wrong, I overall enjoyed this experience. If I were to visualize my enjoyment level, then it would look somewhat like this. Notice how the graph is a spiking, diminishing upwards curve, which overall is positive. Well, save for this section right before the second boss, but we'll get there in the spoiler section. Speaking of which, The game knows exactly what the Twitter users want and makes Shampoo the first villain you get to spend time with. The first thing you see when you enter Castle Shampoo is a portrait of 3 unassuming women, named Bella, Cassandra and Daniela. The painting to me screams 17th century, so it gives you an inkling as to how old this family is. But apparently this matriarch has only been alive for 100 years or so something isn't adding up here. Soon enough you'll find out that not only are they Dimitrescus, literally alphabetically named, they're also not as inconspicuous as the painting makes it seem. Not only do the girls form out of swarms of flies, but Shampoo calls them her daughters, which to me puts an image in my head of some poor man who looks like he belongs on HMS Pinafore having to reach up to sow his seeds. The girls mutilate Ethan even more and introduce you properly to the lady of the castle. Pseudo blowjob scene and all. Ethan Winters, however, is a resilient fucker as he just walks off the sickles his sisters put in his knees and goes on to explore the castle, killing all 3 Brofly girls in the process. During his quest to find Rosemary and kill some mad witches, Ethan finds out that the girls aren't actually Shampoo's line of products, but they actually are the flies they occasionally form into. From what I understand, they were the only 3 test subjects not to be horrifically killed during Shampoo's experiments on her female staff. Flies started burrowing into the bodies of the 3 girls, consuming them from within. Next thing you know, Shampoo was left with flies which formed into human forms but had the intelligence of newborns. So Lady S adopted them as her daughters instead. This brings me onto my first issue where the game is clearly functional for style, but in a bad way. The flies the BCD girls are made of die the second they are subjected to temperatures below 10 degrees Celsius. But then why does this castle have so many openable, unboarded windows? The last one I killed was in the library, and that chamber has a lever to open a big fuck-off window in the ceiling, and seeing how Shampoo already freaks out about one of her daughters biting the dust, or becoming the dust, you'd think she'd modify her house a little. She seems more than happy to thrash Winters through the floors of her castle, so putting up some planks of wood shouldn't put her in too much of a spot of bother. My second complaint is that all the marketing and even the interactions and clues in the game itself hint at Tall Vampire Lady being, well, a vampire. But she can't just walk around during the day, so I call bullshit. Later on you find out that she, like all inbred noble persons, was a hemophiliac, so she requires human blood and flesh as sustenance. But what happens when she eats someone with a different blood type to hers? Everlasting life or not, that's bound to upset her stomach. After Shampoo chases you around for a bit, having killed her 3 daughters, you give her the old Yoritona reward, but she doesn't take it well. This game went from, I'm not bad, I'm just drawn that way, to, did you think you could deceive me, Barrel Rider, real quick, and I love it a lot. There is something just so fitting about the lady of the castle turning into the Hungarian Hornytail, I absolutely love it. After killing Smoget the Terrible and collecting her crystallized thighs, the Duke exposition dumps the rest of the plot onto you. Each of the 4 lords of the village have a piece to the essence of Rose, and you have to get all the pieces so you can put your daughter back together. So simple as that. Locate them, enter their lairs, retrieve the flask, and kill as you wish. Between each boss there's a little bit of time to complete the fetch quest you need to progress the story and explore the village, usually using tools you obtained in the lair of the boss you just killed. Some people will say that these fetch quests ruin the game, but I'd like to remind them that
This is Resident fucking Evil!
Like I said before, that's the basic gameplay loop, which if I'm honest does bore me just a little. My favourite sections in the game are Heisenberg's factory and Castle Head and Shoulders, because they practically become the hub world for a good portion of you trying to kill the lord that lives there. Their nature also makes it so you don't have to feel like you have to get them done in one go, which I sorta did anyways, but that's not the point. The game gives you the option to rush, whilst taking it slow is a 100% valid way of playing the game. Back to the actual game, the next lord you'll have to track down is Donna. At first, her sections build around the fear of dolls, quite blatantly so, there's even dolls hanging from the trees. If you're like me and dolls don't bother you, there's no point to rush in there as quickly as possible. It's actually useful to take a look around and learn the layout of the house first. The part you'll spend the most time in the house is the basement. In there you'll have to solve the usual puzzles, but the end objective being to get back up to the surface. The fuse box is busted, so your short-term objective is repairing that. Donna has taken all your weapons from you at this point, so the game is telling you, don't fight, run. Now I actually watch my own videos quite a lot. I guess you can say I feel a sense of pride and accomplishment when doing so. So for my own sake, I won't use any footage of the next section in the basement. The power cuts, leaving the emergency light and your own torch as your only light sources. At first, nothing new, right? Same place, just with the lights dimmed. Thumping coming from down the hall quickly shoots down that twisted feeling of relief, as you realise you're not alone in that basement. The thing which is in there with you is almost exactly like a recurring nightmare that I've been having for some years now, so it's safe to say I despise this section. So well done Resident Evil Village for locking me back in my personal nightmare, but also, I hate you! Donna's actual boss fight is the lamest of them all. You don't even have to fight her, you just have to find her doll and stabbed a couple times. Boom, she's dead, give me my roast Gerati back please. But yeah, the game basically doesn't care about Donna. I guess that's what happens when you have to juggle 4 characters rather than the magic 3. Salvatore is next, and he's the total opposite. He basically tells you all of his lore in the form of seemingly unrelated dialogue. The game really wants you to feel sorry for him, which, okay, I get. His desires are very human.
Wait, please. If you take it, the others will laugh at me.
but then you remember what he does in order to achieve those desires, and quickly that sympathy wears off. Also, he barks on you. This level is really short, but all the while you're with him in some form or another.
Get it? 'Cause he's a fish!
It's definitely the easiest layer of the Four Lords, and unless you totally pay no attention whatsoever, even the most incompetent player will be just fine here. The Reservoir is also by far the funniest section in the game, although half of it is accidental comedy and the other half is ham-fisted one-liners.
In death as he was in life. Disgusting.
During the entire outdoor section of the level, Salvatore wails about how he'll make his mother proud. Oh yeah, maybe this would be a good time to mention that
None of the Four Lords have any plot relevance whatsoever. That's because they work for this lady.
her name is Mother Miranda, and her only role in this game is taking away the main edge this game has for me. All I cared about were the Four Lords. They each have something I want. They directly impact Ethan Winters' motivation to haul his decaying bum around in the first place. Literally, all Miranda does is put these four Geratis back together to reassemble Rose, right before she decides, you know what, I'm the final boss now. She doesn't even really need Ethan to be dead, she just wants his daughter to use as a vessel for her own daughter who died a century ago. Her presence in this game reduces the previously established characters, and Donna, to what they elementally are. Hurdles the video game throws at you to prepare you for the big fight at the end. And even that I'm willing to dispute, because out of these four lords, Chanel number 5 is the most like Miranda's boss fight, and a friendly reminder that Chanel is the first boss you battle. Miranda being in this game is what finally stopped it feeling like an adventure rather than this game using a trope from 40 years ago and straight up telling you, sorry Ethan Winters, but your daughter's in another castle. Mother is just the reason why all these interesting things which the game throws at you happen, but she lacks any interesting things about herself to make her stand out from the things she is controlling. Where was I? Oh yeah, Salvatore. This was the only boss in the entire game which managed to kill me. He's fun, moving on. To tie that Miranda rant of mine back into the rest of the game, my sentiment seems to be shared with Heisenberg because he genuinely doesn't want anything to do with Miranda and instead just wants to break free. Hell, he sits you down and tells you so himself, right before casually giving the best delivery in the entire game.
Ugly ass psycho doll.
He knows she's just using Ethan to kill the lords, who Miranda doesn't see as necessary anymore. Carl has kept himself busy with using bodies from the village people. The people of the village, to convert them into mechanical super soldiers. Although he really just fits them with drills for hand, so it's less Mr. X and more Drill X. Django over here asks Ethan to join him in destroying Miranda. Winters' response is to tell him to occupy himself with Falacio. Reinhardt is understandably upset by this and drops Ethan into his factory, where Ethan is greeted by a sentry buster but with a plane engine for a head. This fella is actually the cause of Capcom being accused of plagiarizing a Dutch filmmaker's ideas, as the monster appears to be an exact copy of a soldier in one of his films, Frankenstein's Army. Escaping Disney's planes, you're left to explore the factory level by level. I really like the aesthetic of the factory, and considering it serves the same purpose as Castle Dummy Thick, it just goes to show how the theming can make an area feel like nothing you've seen before, even though it does the exact same thing. There's quite a bit of exploration possible, and if you backtrack enough, there's also plenty of loot to be found, although you are just supposed to sell most of what you find. When you inevitably kill the engine head guy, who's classified as Sturm by the way, you run into Heisenberg again, who basically undoes all of your progress and throws you right back down to the lowest level of the factory.
Damn it again!
You can say that again, Ethan. You actually bump into Chris Redfield there again, who decides to finally give Ethan the scoop. After a non-existent cutscene of explanation, he explains that the Mia he shot wasn't actually Mia, but Miranda, shortly before he sends Ethan to the surface armed with a tank to kick some Heisenbergers.
War is hell. Freedom isn't free. I am in a tank.
And just like that, Carl is dead. Again, I have to comment on the flow of this game. You spend all the time in Heisenberg's factory, you meet him face to face twice, and then you unload onto him, killing him just like that. It really feels underwhelming. The battle is a lot of fun though, even if it feels out of place, so it's not all too bad. Miranda then shows up and... do I really have to tell you this? Because she has no impact on the plot other than being the final boss. She kills Winters. Except she doesn't. Chris, meanwhile, is on a total rampage in the village, and man oh man did the devs just totally nudge wink wink you in this level. They hand you a gun that practically never runs out of ammo, some grenades to boot, and they just let you rip and tear your way to the heart of the mold which caused all this.
Remember when Resident Evil was about biohazards instead of voodoo?
Chris plants an explosive which has enough power to totally destroy this village and runs into the actual Mia Winters, who conveys to him that Ethan is in fact so special that he cannot die. Yes, you, me, and everyone and their grannies guessed it. Ethan Winters is practically just walking mold, confirming that he truly is the scariest monster in this damn series. I've heard complaints going around that this makes Ethan less relatable, but he's so emotionally uninvested I don't see why we were supposed to care for him in the first place. So Eve wakes up, kills final boss Miranda, she gets her totally undeserved death cutscene, and Ethan hands his rescued baby girl over to Chris, and kills himself to save the others. Wow. At first I thought Miranda's death was over the top and unnecessary, but now she's tied for first place it seems. I always hate it when games do that, not because I cannot deal with an unhappy ending, trust me I would have accepted it if he died in that field at Heisenberg's place, but because it in fact nullifies everything I, the player, have done to keep this sod alive. Saucer just dies on me in a cutscene right after I've achieved my goal. Well thank you Ethan, guess you didn't need all that goop juice after all. There are a lot of things that I like about this game, but there's equally a lot of things that I think could have been executed better or I straight up didn't like. I'll straight up say that at no point in my playthrough was I scared. Well, except for that one section which seems to scare the absolute shit out of most people, and I will fully admit I had to pause the game multiple times during that segment. I just wasn't ready, and I'm still not ready, come to think of it. It's the bit in the dollmaker's basement. Those who know simply know. The story is given useless twist, but it's still told perfectly through all the little nuggets of information and dialogue you can find. It's storytelling like this which I just love. That's why I love Resident Evil as a series as a whole. I mean, it is still Resi after all, so the story is always going to be a whole bloated lot of nothing. I actually always end up caring more for the individual stories the game tells you about the world of the game rather than the overarching story which ties it all together. And I use ties quite wrongly here, bloody Umbrella Corporation. When the game isn't going to throw things at you, the game lets you know. Alternatively, when the game wants you to know something is amiss and coming, the game makes sure you're prepared. In the aforementioned specific segment, which will remain the sole reason why I won't replay this game anytime soon, the game takes away all of your items. So you already know that something is coming and you'll have to flee at some point. But still, when the thing does start chasing you, I was squealing like a little girl, so the game does know what effective horror is. A shame it was all poured into one segment rather than being neatly distributed over the entire experience. The lords have their own unique desires and well-defined personalities, making them all just as entertaining. And Donna, you almost don't want to kill them at all just because there's a slight chance they'll say something worth hearing. If it wasn't obvious, each of the four lords is themed around a certain style of horror, and the theming is executed to perfection, with perhaps one mechanical exception. The devs definitely know what players want and they're more than willing to give it to them. They fully know what they're doing by, for instance, making unlimited ammo available in the post-game, and shots like this certainly don't make me feel like they didn't have a clue people would like Alcina this much either. Gunplay is responsive and satisfying, but the knife feels clunky. The sniper rifle especially is just sort of handed to you and enemy spawns specifically just for you to test it out. The game does that a lot, giving you big guns and then spawning in enemies specifically for you to unload into. Thank you, game. Since I'm talking about the gameplay now, I might as well add this little footnote to my experience. Whenever some monster started chasing me or some high-level enemy appeared that I didn't want to deal with, the first thing I do is flip up the map. I'd carefully plan my route before booking it down said route, mostly ignoring anything in my way. Am I doing this right? It sort of feels like cheesing the game a wee bit. Basically everything you'd play a Resi game for is present and it's executed well. For the things I don't like, the fucking doll basement. The TENS music is obnoxious and I could do without it most of the time. The pacing of this game is horrible. On a regular playthrough it will take you a good 20 minutes before the game takes away the training wheels. Some of the boss battles are over just too quickly. 3 out of the 5 major boss battles also feel out of place. The gameplay loop when you're back in the village is nothing too innovative, and once you've been through it once you've really seen all there is. Sometimes the game chooses mechanics over style which challenge what I perceive to be common knowledge. Vampire Lady being able to walk around in the daylight is one of those things. Lastly, I don't care for the final boss at all. It takes away from the overall setup of the game and I almost feel like the other villains are done dirty because of it. Although Resident Evil does this all the time, so it's sadly nothing new. In conclusion, like every other Resident Evil game that isn't Resident Evil 5 or 6, this is a very competent game. It has a lot of fun with the characters with purposefully campy dialogue, but if you're just looking into the game for the characters, you might be disappointed. I've heard word go around that this might be the best Resi game yet, and whilst I cannot judge that myself, seeing as this is the first one I've played, I can certainly see quality seeping through at every moment. Except when it doesn't. I don't think I'll replay the game just yet, because of the fucking doll basement, but I did have a lot of fun, even if the fun came in bursts. Everything you're expecting from a Resi game is present, for better or for worse. Post-game mainly consists out of playing the campaign again, but there's also the game mode Mercenaries. It turns the game into your average zombie shooter, but now the zombies are furry. It gives you practically unlimited ammo and clear health bars above enemy NPCs' heads, making for a decently fun Daka game. The gunplay is a major part of this game, so of course that B mode centered around just that. There's just one problem for me. Some of the stages are too big, and it's single player only. Sure, Resident Evil isn't supposed to be Call of Duty Zombies, but the fun factor is always so much higher when you can just dick around a place, occasionally shooting a slow-moving zombie with a friend. Hell, even just 2-player would make sense. Ethan and Chris shooting Lycans together isn't out of the ordinary for this series, so why would I not have the option to use a peer-to-peer system? It feels like a missed opportunity is all I'm saying. Again, I 100% get that wasn't the experience Capcom is going for, but it just feels incomplete playing zombies by yourself. I don't think the mode will capture the average player for absolutely ages, but I don't mind its existence. So I guess it's now time to list my favourite things in the game. Favourite character? The Duke.
You are a great big fat man. Round.
Favourite location? The castle. Favourite lord? They're all great, and they wouldn't hit the same if it was just one of them, so I like them all equally as much.
And Donna.
Favourite lord boss fight? Alcina. Favourite mini-boss? Favourite enemy? Varkolak. Man, that thing is well designed. Now I need to rate this game, I suppose. Yeah, this game is a solid 7 out of 10. Not the all-time best thing I've ever played, but certainly worth my time. This is where I'm supposed to end the video, since this entire last section was an addendum. But I'm shite at ending videos, so piss off. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, well, tough luck. This isn't a review channel, I make crappy videos about trains. But if you happen to enjoy this video in particular, then please like, comment and subscribe. If you want to be a particularly bad friend, you could share this video with your friends. Okay, yeah, that's it. Roll the outro.